I was just going to say a couple of quick words, and
Okay.
especially thank you to the new guides who are here, and thank you for joining us. But to all the guides and everyone on the phone call, my name is Paul Coolidge. I am the head of the membership committee, and I took over from Barbara Taylor, who's I'm glad to see is also on the call today. Hi, Barbara.
Hey there, Paul.
And one of our key initiatives for the first half of 2023 was to recruit some new members to the guide program and relook at the training and update it, and to retrain everybody just to make sure we're all on the same page. So this is one of our big goals for the beginning of the year, and I'm glad you guys are all here for that. It's something we take very seriously, and I think you who are the guides really are the first touch points for people joining Beacon, and I can't overestimate the impact we have, because having a great guide experience can really lead to a wonderful Beacon experience, and the reverse is also possible. So it's really essential that we're all operating appropriately, and that we're all have the most updated information. So with that, I want to turn it over to Janine and Bob, and thank Janine and Bob for all the work they do on the guide program. You all probably deal mostly with Janine, but Bob is works very closely with Janine on the guide program. So I want to turn it over to them. They're going to be leading the initiative today. And I just want to thank everyone who is a guide for your work. Obviously, it's not paid, and we really appreciate all your efforts, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of the next hour. Thank you.
Okay. By the way, we have an hour and a half allotted.
Oh, even better.
Strap in your seatbelts. All right. So Bob and I are going to share this. I'm going to get us started off, except for the part where we go over the Beacon website. We're handing that to Zoe. I could use a refresher. So just really quickly, the purpose of meeting it with the existing guides is, we always like to have the existing guides and the new guides together when we can, because we think it helps with training, and sort of sharing information and sharing the wisdom. So really the purpose is to train the new guides, but to let the old guides get a little refresher and share your wisdom, because I know for myself, when I guide, when I have a guide, I kind of have a little list of things for myself to follow, and it's a little it's sort of cribbed together from the different trainings I got, and every time is a little different. Every person is different. So anyway, that's the purpose, and I'm really glad to see everybody here. And I'm also going to add my thanks to the new guides. As the person who assigns guides, I'm really glad to have a few extra people on the list, because we do get just a little attrition every year, and it's time to bring in a new crowd. All right, so we're doing intros, right? We're doing quick intros. We did quick intros already because I took roll. But we're going to do really quick, go around the room. I guess I'll call people oh, Charlie's here. Hi, Charlie. What are we doing? You're saying almost nothing. Oh, your name, your Beacon activities, and what you enjoy or anticipate most about the guide process. All right, so I'll start. I'm Janine. I'm the chair of the guide committee, and I do as I said, I do the assignments and try to keep track of things. I will say that my last guide assignment for the first time, because I really started this at the beginning of COVID, I had my first guide meeting in person, and it was so fun. It was so much better. So I know, we're not really doing that anymore. It's not a requirement, but I really encourage you, if you can. I thought, wow, that was way better than the phone calls I've done, and the Zooms I've done in the past. All right, next is, I'm just going around my screen. So next is Zoe.
Hi, everyone. I know most of you, but I'm the executive director for Beacon. I've been working with this group since 2019, and I'm thankful to you all for being guides.
All right, Bob Merkel. Oh, and was I supposed to say, Beacon activity? Never mind. Go ahead, Bob. I got it all.
I'm Bob Merkel. I'm a member of the membership committee. Excuse me. within Beacon. Work with Janine in that role as part of the onboarding process. And for those of you who are relatively new to the organization, you may remember that I'm the person you had the conversation with finalizing your entry process. So for me, the guide program is an opportunity to actually have a more in-depth conversation with at least a few of the new members coming in and get to know them better.
All right, Barbara Taylor.
Hi, nice to meet you all. And I've been a member of Beacon for a really long time. Started the guide program way back when, and I'm now a board member. I've been in membership, as Paul mentioned, and started the Women's Network. And I love the reason I love doing the guide process is, first of all, Beacon for some new people is a little bit, it's different. It's more I don't know, I'll say complex, but I don't know that that's the right word. But in most organizations, there's like maybe one meeting that happens per month. There aren't as many choices and options as we have at Beacon. So to be able to help people really understand what the options and all the different activities are at Beacon and how they can engage, that part is really cool. And in addition, when you're a guide, you get to meet people that you might not have met before and to really establish and start a relationship. So that's what I love.
Thank you. Jessica Weathers. I confess I have no idea who you are.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jess Weathers. I'm in week 2 of my new role as the association coordinator. So I'll be working with Zoe.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, welcome,
it's nice
Jessica.
to meet you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all.
Great. Okay, Craig Stabler.
Morning, everyone. I'm Craig Stabler. I'm as I call myself, a semi-retired software consulting executive. I retired and I'm contracting back a couple of days a week to the same place. I've been a member of Beacon and before that GPSEG for somewhere between 15 and 20 years. I really enjoy the organization. Being a guide, I've been a guide for somewhere, I don't know, between 3-4 years probably at this point. And I really enjoy meeting new people and helping them and getting a chance to expand my network at the same time.
Great, thank you. Pat Schaefer.
Good morning, everybody. I've been with Beacon since 2008. I worked with Barbara to get the guide program up and running, so I'm really happy to see this refresher happening this morning. I'm part of the membership committee, the program committee, and the diversity and inclusion committee. And I'll talk more about this later, but what I like about guiding is much like what Barbara said, that I get to build relationships with new people. And it also keeps me up to date on all the new stuff that's going on at Beacon. And there's a lot of that lately.
Bob Jarvis. Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. I've been with Beacon GPSEG for 10 plus years. I don't remember when exactly I started. It was about 1.5 years ago, I stepped down as chair of the board of directors at the end of my 6 years, having had the honor to lead Beacon through COVID. It was an interesting experience. Been a guide for, I don't know, Barbara, I don't know how long it's been, probably 8 years, but really that I'll talk about some of the experiences later, I'm sure. But what I like is meeting new people and helping them figure out this vast opportunity they have in front of them, which is called Beacon.
Great, thanks. Keith Willis, you're relatively new guy.
Yeah, so I've been with Beacon for a little, excuse me, a little over a year. I lead the life sciences group, and it's an opportunity to meet new people as well as to find out and understand a lot more about Beacon.
Great, thanks. Georgine.
Good morning, Georgine Wardzinski. I'm currently on the board, and I work with the membership program, PE, CEO Roundtable on Financial Execs. And Barbara can tell you that she was the one that told me I was the first guide to have been a guide, and to have a guide to be a guide years ago. And I really enjoy just the navigating. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful program. And I think the ability for an existing member to navigate, help the new person navigate through all the opportunities that Beacon has is wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Ben Pastro.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Ben, and I want to be Craig Stabler when I grow up and be semi-retired. No, I've been in Beacon for about almost 4 years, and I'm involved with the Delaware subgroups, the PE and CEO roundtables. I live down outside of Wilmington, Delaware. I've been a guide now for about 2 years, and I've enjoyed it. It's an opportunity to help people, and it's an opportunity to meet new people. And I'll echo, Janine, your thanks in welcoming the new guides to this group.
Great, thank you. Angelo DeSantis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelo DeSantis. Been a Beacon member, I guess it's been close to 10 years, if not more. I'm an associate at your part-time controller. I enjoy being a guide because it gives me an opportunity to meet new members, get to know them, network with them a little bit, and hopefully I give them some good advice on how to be a good member of Beacon.
Great, thank you. Paul, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself again.
Happy to do so. Paul Coolidge. Ben, you're going to hate me because I am fully retired, not partly retired. I joined Beacon back in January of 2015 when I was the Chief Marketing Officer of the Goddard Schools. And actually, Barbara Taylor was my guide. So that I stayed here for 8 years. Barbara, thank you. And then Barbara recruited me onto the membership committee, and now I'm running the membership committee. So I kind of follow Barbara, whatever she needs me to do, I kind of just do. And just a quick funny aside, I was in Toronto, Canada yesterday, and I was listening to their public radio there, and they were talking about onboarding. And the example they were using was the royal family. And if you've seen the TV show The Crown, they call it the corporation. And they said, what is wrong with the onboarding at the corporation? After what happened with Diana, after what happened with Sarah Ferguson, you'd think with Meghan Markle, they would do a better onboarding. So I kind of snickered and said, well, hopefully we can do a better job than the royal family today in our training.
It's a good example. Never thought of it that way. And onboarding disasters, case study. Carolyn, Nathan, new guy. Yay, Carolyn.
Yep, I am new. I joined Beacon during COVID, and I don't feel like I ever really got the exposure I might have otherwise. And I'm just in process of renewing now. I think I've renewed once before. I think I'm like a year and a half in. I can't remember, but
that's about right. Yeah.
Okay. And when this opportunity came up, I try to introduce people to Beacon that I meet that I think would be a good fit. And I thought this would be a good way to get trained and understand the organization myself. And I love doing what you're all describing. I love meeting new members, and I'll have as many one-on-ones as people will allow me to, because I love meeting people. So it's a way that I can give back to the organization and be active.
Right.
Oh,
Great.
and I'm with Insperity.
You're with Insperity.
Yeah, we do HR outsourcing.
Thank you, Jackie Linton.
Good morning, everyone. So I am not a guide. I am a new member, and I joined, I guess, in the fall, September, October, on the trial period. And thank goodness Pat, who was my guide, reached out to me and pulled me in. And so now I'm a member of the membership committee, and I hope that I'll be able to learn a lot more about Beacon and how I can contribute. And I also would like to share some of my skills with the membership committee of things that I've learned in my career as an HR professional. So
great, thank you. Charlie Huntington, new guide. I'm gonna put little stamps on your photos, like little ribbons,
Thanks, Janine.
Go ahead, Charlie.
So I have been around for 10 plus years with Beacon. I've participated in the HR subgroups. I don't know if it's called human capital these days, life science, CEO roundtable. I run a financial planning practice specifically targeted at life science, biotech, and pharma people. So I'm happy to help anybody. This is the only networking that I do, frankly, outside of those markets I just mentioned. So happy to be here, and thanks for putting this together.
You're welcome. Ken, we got 2 more to go. Ken,
Okay, good morning,
good to
everyone.
see you. I didn't know
Yeah.
you were coming, so yay, treat.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me here. I'm Ken Scher. I'm a career coach, executive coach. I help people improve their professional lives. I've been in Beacon about 4 or 5 years. I've been a guide for 3 or 4 years. I love Beacon, and I love spreading the news and bringing in new people. It's always exciting meeting them and then telling them the great things of Beacon. And a quick plug that one of the things that I think is a great way to get people engaged in Beacon is the small networking groups, which we have 2 times a month. So when you're meeting your new Beacon members, please let them know it's a great way to meet 6, 8 Beacon members in a very intimate, quick way. Thank you.
It's a good, thank you, Ken. That's actually a good, I don't think we had that in our literature anywhere, Bob. And Linda Penrod, last intro. Oh, wait, Linda, you're muted. We don't lip read.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I don't.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I was worried my lighting wasn't working at all either. So good morning. And I became a member when this whole organization started within about 2 years. So I've been a member for decades, and I was very active in the beginning for a long time. And Barbara was very active when I look at this screen, probably 50% of the people came in pretty early in the life of the organization. So hello, everybody. And I was very active in sales and marketing committees, subcommittees, and was doing a lot. The different activities you mentioned today, I did one time or another. And hi, Ken. But in the last, I'd say 5 years, I've done different things, but sporadically, not as actively as a lot of you have done. So kudos for keeping the organization together. And I love Zoe, and everybody knows that we wouldn't be here if we didn't have someone with her leadership skills pulling it always together. So
Amen.
I can't not be a member, even though I too am more or less retired. While I'm doing 2 things from a professional point of view, they're more or less, the one is pretty pro bono. I have a daughter who's autistic. She's 31, but I go to companies and explain why if every company would hire one person on the spectrum, we would all be better off, and companies need people. And they say spectrum because you can be like the Monday night show and have someone who's like the great doctor there, the good doctor, or you could have someone pushing the carts, a giant. So I have been kind of on that mission and met the CEOs of major corporations and small companies. And then I've also been, most of my years have been as a corporate executive, and but I have been going to, I have a real estate background as well. So I have actually done some work with probating on and working with attorneys in our real estate area. So I am doing some work, and I am very actively always counseling people on how they really could go to an organization like Beacon. So kind of when we have these opportunities, and I've had people I've mentored, I've really felt good, one person or 2 every year or 2 who I feel has felt I've benefited them. And that's the key. If we all just help one person or 2 people every year, every 2 years, just think of the impact we're making. And so I really admire Beacon for having this organization. So I think this is a group that has to keep going, because I think that personalization, that ability to let people reach out and ask questions and feel good about becoming a member is key. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, thanks, everybody. All right, so the next thing I think is Bob, right, Bob? You're going to take it for a while. Oh, you're taking the why? Yes. Take it away.
Many of you probably already know the answers to these, but we thought we ought to review. Why do we have a guide program? It's really from 2 perspectives. From the organizational perspective, we look at it as a way to get people actively engaged when they first become members. And as a result of their becoming actively engaged, we expect it to improve our retention. So that's the business purpose. From the guides, the new member perspective, we're really trying to encourage them to get active. we've got a long history of many people joining and being relatively inactive and passive members. But like any networking itself, or any organizational participation, if you aren't actively involved, you really get no value. So we're looking to the program to develop the members' activity level so that they get real value out of the program as they define it. How do you know you've succeeded in guiding an individual? Again, 2 viewpoints. From a one-on-one guide perspective, we see it as just looking at the member, talking with your new member and making sure that they've become involved. They've gone to some meetings, they're volunteering perhaps for activities, or if not interested in meetings, or at least meeting one-on-one with other Beacon members, so that they're have the opportunity to get real value out of their membership. Because in the end, everybody's time is scarce. It's the scarcest commodity we have, the most valuable. So we need to make sure that the time they spend involved with Beacon has real value for them. From the organizational perspective, we want to start measuring the retention of members at the renewal points. So it is a long-term impact that we're looking for.
All right.
Well, I was going to say, we will be sending you material after this through COVID, and Beacon has actually made a fair number of internal changes with B circles, the small group networking and all that. We're putting together a list of essentially all of the activities of Beacon, because especially those of us who have been in Beacon for a long time, there's a fair amount that's new over the last couple of years. And we want to make sure you have at your fingertips all of the possibilities for how people can get involved in Beacon. We'll be sending that out to you probably a week or so from now. And that's one of the things that will be in the toolkit. Sorry, Janine, go ahead.
No, it's good. Thank you. I would not have remembered to say that.
It's top of my mind because I didn't get it done before I went to get the grandkids.
Because you're the one sending it. I know. And then the grandkids descended, and really, who cares about anything else when the grandkids show up? That's the best thing, right? Okay, toolkit is the next. So this is, do we have it? Do we actually have it to show?
Should be on the next slide.
Or, yeah, okay. Does it?
I think it's control and then
Does
select.
it open up?
It should. It did in test.
There it is.
There we go.
So I will just say, this is called formally the guide planning form. And Bob and I had the darndest time because I call it the roadmap, because I was trained by Barbara Taylor, and Barbara calls it the roadmap, and I think she created this. But somehow it's become the guide. Bob and I were like, wait, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And we realized we're talking about the same thing. So this is, this was created a long time ago as kind of a template. I think at the time it was, Barbara, I think when you trained me, you were like, you can send this to the new guide ahead of time. Well, I never did that. But I guess this is my, like, I suspect that all of us, and this is where the existing guides can ring a little bit after we go through this, you know, you sort of get this training and then you adapt it to yourself. And frankly, for me, it really kind of depends on who the person is and what else is going on in my life. Sometimes I'm super detailed, and other times, you know, I'm not, I you know, need to sort of look at something and make sure I hit all the marks. True confession, that's true, you know, and I suspect it's true for a lot of you as well, based on, you know, the conversations we have with people, you know, that I have with people who've had guides. So I use this as my, this is kind of the thing I pull out to remember what I'm doing and get myself oriented. And then I make I've always made a couple of extra notes. Here's mine. This is mine with my little notes of like other things to remember to say. And so I think Bob and I adapted this a tiny bit from the original, just to help, you know, sort of incorporate some of the things that we thought were, you know, that I was incorporating, and then I don't know, just from other conversations we had. So the first thing is that the last time we did a training, we changed this. So it used to be that the guides really did soup to nuts, and they did a lot of the tech and, you know, like how to navigate the website. And I think it's important to know that, but that is being covered in the new member orientations. And so I personally, I would not want myself to be the person that tells anybody about the website, because I have to be reminded every now and then. So that we sort of diminished that responsibility for the guides last time, so that you could focus more on this stuff, like, why are you in this group? What are you looking for in your life and your career? And how can we help with that, instead of figuring out, you know, how to go over to Causeway and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a couple website things I personally still talk about, sort of where the new member resources and stuff are, but the orientation covers a lot of the other kind of technical things. So really quickly, this is sort of the run through, and I think it's a good guide for when you're having your first conversation with a guy. Why did they join? What are their goals? These are really obvious. All you HR people could do this in your sleep. You know, really trying to have a conversation about what led them to join the organization and what they're hoping to achieve, so that you can try to figure out, you know, where to point them. What experience of your own? This is a new one. You know, we sort of flesh this out a little bit more, you know, what from yourself, just to prompt you, you know, what from your own experience can you share to help enhance their experience? And what can you learn from the new member, which Bob, you added? I would have never thought that. Bob, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Why you added to remind people, what can you learn from them as you're getting to know them?
One of the key things we think guides should be doing is exhibiting the networking as Beacon believes it should be done.
Yeah.
And that means it's a two-way exchange of information and experience between the people. So we put this in, because I think of the roadmap. I'll shift my language. I'm getting there. It's a combination, if you will, of a planning document and sort of a post-sales meeting. What do I do next steps kind of a document at this point. But one of the things we've looked at is if you're exhibiting how to be a better networker or be a good networker, as Beacon believes in it, which is something that almost all of our new members as they come in, I think, are at some level looking for, though often it's not an expressed from the many conversations I have with people as they're coming in. We thought it would make sense to remind you that it is a two-way, because many of us, I think, historically have approached guide as sort of, I'm the teacher, the new member is the student, but in fact, students can teach too.
Right. And so actions, these are just sort of the hit list of like, all right, meetings to suggest for them to attend. I always make sure they know about the new member that they've gone to or signed up for a new member orientation. I go through the subgroups. I don't know if that's in there, but, you know, after they sort of told me and I've learned about them a little bit, you know, what subgroups would be good for them, which ones I go to. People, some people, I have my guide meeting, I come up with like 5 people, like really easy, like there's just a ton of people, and other people I don't come up. It just depends on the conversation, but I really try to think of some people to introduce them to. See, this is Bob put in by when. He's really prompting you to like, all right, keep yourself on track here. Volunteer opportunities, it's never too early. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think one of the best ways that people get engaged is by, you know, getting engaged with, you know, some activity, and some people are ready right from the get-go to like, they're ready to join a committee. I'm also I co-chair with Jim Van Horn, the nonprofit committee, and there's always, you know, there's some people that are like ready to start having conversations about nonprofit things. And I think that's true for other committees. I also put events, obviously, events, new member orientation, small group networking. I'm going through my punch list, people to list, people to meet. And then we put in here a next step so that you could actually just like write your, you know, use this to just write your next steps if you want to use this form to kind of remind yourself of what you're doing. And wait, these things at the bottom, these little reminders, the YouTube channel. See, this is why we need the reminder. A lot of the sessions and the really key sessions are all up on the YouTube channel. So, for example, all the the Navigator training, a lot of them are up there. The network navigator trainings, which were probably Barbara and Pat and maybe Charlie Tim and some. So I think that's a great, I actually didn't know that till recently, but that's a great way for people to sort of start attending an event and get a feel for it before they even attend an event in person. And then, so the website, so for me, what I always make sure they know on the website is where the events are and where to see the events, how to sign up for them, the new member resources, how to find a member, the thing that shows you how to make your introduction, you know, those basic things, because really once you've got that, you can navigate, you know, you've got quite a bit that you can start doing without, you know, before you even get to the new member orientation. So this is, for those of you who also use this form, you can see this is sort of an enhanced version of what we had before. So I'm curious, from the existing guides, is there anything in particular else that you have on your kind of regular to-do list?
I have one suggestion. I always encourage them to send an intro email. Maybe that's what you just referenced. It is someplace.
Yeah.
I take examples of intro emails that other people have sent out before.
Yeah.
Put those on to the new member. And
yeah, so I sort of point, you know, it's funny. So people are, you wouldn't know this because you don't do the assigning, but sometimes people are on it so fast, they've introduced themselves before I have assigned them. There's been a couple people that really find it quickly, but most people don't. And so, yeah, I always show them where that, it's in new member resources. It's always going to show it to us. So that if there's like an example intro email and stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else, Bob?
Yeah. So just an observation, a couple. One, when I've talked to folks, even after they've been through new member orientation about the website, they're still pretty clueless. So one of the things I've done in my second guide meeting, not my first guide meeting, is all about getting to know them and making connections to start expanding the network right away. My second meeting, among other things, walks through the website, but with Zoom, or if it's in person, I basically flip it and have them go through it on their computer with a shared screen. So I can say, okay, what are the questions you have? A list of how to answer. Let's walk through. And there's a bunch of stuff that I skip because there's a whole lot there. The Causeway has absolutely zero context to a new member. And since the day we put that up, I've been fighting to try to get that changed to something that's more meaningful. But in any case, that whole Causeway piece of it isn't readily apparent. So I think it is something worthwhile for guides to do, even though it's no longer on the checklist. So maybe it's something that's a checkpoint on a follow-up meeting. You know, how are you doing? How are you figuring it out? But to me, I've had members who have been here for over a year and they didn't really understand all the stuff. How do we get on these mailing lists? You know, so all the listservs and just an awareness of. And the reason I go to the listservs is one of the most valuable tools that we have as a Beacon member is Ask Beacon. Members at Beacon. I mean, how many times have we seen we got this huge resource that's an email away. And I think that's one of our big selling points. And I bring that up when I get to the listservs and talk about that one in particular. So those are two things I keep on my checklist.
You know what, that's really, we should actually add that to this document to make sure they know how to ask the whole membership a question.
Yeah.
I was one of those people, Bob. I actually, it's ironic. I actually didn't have a guide. But I joined at one of those times when the guide, every now and then things sort of fall apart a little bit. And my guide we never connected. And I had been a member for like a year. I think I was starting to do this and I was like, what's Causeway? And so I had a whole orientation, which is probably why I'm still a little like, it's really not my strength, Causeway. And, you know, Zoe had to explain it to me. So it happens. So that's actually really good to check with them. Like, are you figuring out what you need to figure out with a website, and then how to ask all members? Really good one.
And Janine, I know I mentioned it in my intro, but I would love if you could put the small networking groups here.
Mhm.
Again, they meet, I forget if they meet twice a month on Tuesday and Thursday. One of them's at noon,
Mhm.
one of them's at 5. And they're really a great way for people to dip their toe in the water and begin networking
Yeah.
and getting
It's a
what they
good one.
want to get out of people.
Yeah, it's a really good one. Yeah.
So we can, clean this up afterwards.
Yeah, we will.
And send
Yeah.
this out, the new version. So I'm just copying like a general idea of what each person's comment was.
Yeah.
Just one thing to the point, I echo Bob's point about the power of the Ask Beacon email, if you will, or the value of it. Maybe it's worth, since a lot of people seem to not know about it or remember it, maybe it's worth just sending an email to all members, reminding them that, they can use that email address, for X, Y, just food for thought.
Yeah.
And one last word, if it is the last word on this, I can't claim anything to this particular form. It was Pat who created this form.
It was Pat. All
Yeah,
right.
it was Pat who created this form and called it the roadmap. So I think what you've added to it makes a lot of sense. I think it's great.
Yeah. Okay, Pat. Full credit where credit is due.
Yeah, and I
It's
totally
good.
agree with Barbara. I think the enhancements you've made are great.
Yeah. I love it. All right. What, anything else before we move on to the website? We're gonna do a quick website key locations. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, you guys. This was really those were really good additions. There's always more to tell. And it underlines my theory that everybody guides a teeny tiny bit differently. Okay, we're gonna do, we're just gonna do a quick look at the website with Zoe, which first of all, it's a new website. So I know when I'm on it, I have to fumble around a little bit. That's a nice
Yeah,
photo.
hopefully once everyone sort of sees it and understands how it's laid out, it is a little less cumbersome in terms of the number of pages and the number of places to click. So we hope we've made it better by streamlining it a bit. So when you get to the home page, I think everything we've tried to condense the menu items. If you remember before, sometimes you'd like hover over a menu and all of a sudden you have 15 sub menu items, and then there were sub menu items of sub menu items. So we've tried to kind of get away from that. Obviously the front page is who we are. It sort of tells the story. The idea of putting this new website together in the first place was we wanted to make sure that Beacon, when someone finds us, let's say they're a new member or a prospective member or someone you're inviting to come to an event with you, we wanted them to find sort of putting our best face forward, a good representation of what we mean by networking for life, really emphasize the value proposition, et cetera. So that's what we put these together. We have our I Am Beacon video that we've put together. We have some testimonials from members, about what they get out of Beacon. Of course, we have our sponsors, but we also, when we streamline this menu, and I will quickly go through all of them. You might not need them for necessarily the new guide the guide meeting, but it's helpful for you to know. So we have an About Us page now that sort of briefly, succinctly tells the story, giving credit to and explaining Chris Pavlidis's vision for those of you who were around when he was around, really emphasizing the mission of the long-term relationships, exchanging professional knowledge, et cetera. We also have a leadership page where you can see the board of directors if people are curious who those folks are. And then this is where you may have had to before, open that big menu item, and even just to see the committees, sometimes it was like very difficult to find those committees. So now each of them is listed here. And if you want to find out more about any of them, you can actually click and it'll bring you to their homepage. Some of them have more filled in there than others, but for example, that diversity and inclusion page, they had some resources, but they didn't really have a whole description. Whereas others, they have group objectives, description of past presenters. You can see their subgroup leadership here. So and there's other ways to get to that, but this way you can kind of see at a glance, what are all the committees? What are all the subgroups? Who are the leaders of those? And I do try to keep this updated, but with this many subgroups, there's always changes, but this is a good place to start and kind of find who you're looking for. The events, this calendar has not changed from what you remember before. So the menu item, clicking to that still gets you to the events calendar. The process for signing up for an event hasn't changed. So, if they are signed in, which at the top, if it says sign out, that means they're already signed in. If they're signed in, they'll get the member rate, which for virtual events would be $0. If they're not signed in, it'll prompt them to sign in. So kind of thinking about the new website and how it plays with the items we haven't changed, like the events calendar, anything that would prompt you to log in, we didn't change that. So the login feature is still the same. And you'll notice that now anything with a login is at a community.beaconforlife.org link. But let's say you get to the event page and you want to go back to the other page, you can still see that the menu items follow the same. So you can always navigate your way back. So the next menu item that we have now is member resources. So this, I think, is really helpful because it sort of consolidates it all into one place. So again, because finding a member in the directory requires you to log in, you do go sort of back to the old site more or less, but now at least you know where to find it easily because it's in the member resources. And so you can search, I'm not logged in, so it's not showing me the right search, but you can, search based on person's name, industry. You can type in even just a word, like if you wanted to find Pat Schaefer, you could type in her last name Schaefer, or you could type in talent strategy and you might get, must be logged in, hold on. All right, I don't have my password saved on here, so we're not going to go through that, but we didn't change the member search. You can still search based on all the criteria you could search on before. This is where we remind people how to send all right, hold on one second. All right, so one thing I did change to this page always existed, but people often didn't find it. This was a really long explanation of all the different lists we have on Causeway, the rules for posting on them. So this is all here. If you do need it, this does sort of walk through. One thing I will say about Causeway is perhaps the member sets it up with you, their preferences in their initial guide meeting or their second guide meeting. I like to think of it as kind of like a set it and forget it. If you set up the preferences for your contact, for contact through Causeway once, you probably don't need to sign in again and do it. But if you do and you can't remember, I would always direct people to come to this page. Because what happens is mostly once they've signed up for what emails they want to receive, the way they're interacting with it is by sending a request. And they can do that right from their own email. So if they use Gmail, they just pop open a new email, start writing it, find the appropriate list, copy, paste, hit send. And they've never had to go back into Causeway, but their request gets to me. I moderate it. As long as it follows these, guidelines, I hit approve, and within seconds, the members all have it. So I've tried to write this description of how they send the email because in reality, that's usually what people care about, after they've set up their preferences. It's more about, well, how do I send the request? So I did add this part here. And the only reason that this page requires sign in is we don't want people who are not members, sending a member request. If they're not a member, they don't get access to that. That's a member benefit. So I'll often I just kind of quote these rules back to people. I'll just either send them this page or I'll just copy and paste this into an email, because I do get that question from members who are brand new and also members who have been members for 10, 15 years. So that's where this all lives. And again, if you remember, okay, well, you can get to it from this page, send a community request. And actually, now that we're logged in, I'll show you the search. Again, this didn't change. I can search by keyword or person's name. If I search talent strategy, you know, I find Pat because that's her company name, and Carol, that's her business partner. But I also find anyone who somewhere on their profile uses the word talent and strategy. So, you know, Cindy Porter, she's an HR executive. So I can imagine she's got the words talent and strategy on her profile, and that's why she comes up in these. So, you know, sometimes people don't realize that, but you actually can, you know, do that search with any keyword similar to a Google search. And if you want to go advanced with it, you can also search, you know, for regular members. And then you can pick, you know, people who are in accounting/audit as their profession, you know, or you don't have to search on that feature. You could search on, let's say, actually someone brought this up. They were looking to see if anyone was a member of, or sorry, worked with United Way. And you may or may not find someone, but you can see, you know, if there's any members who on that part of their profile work with the United Way, and lo and behold, I guess Mike Brenner does. So, you know, that it is a pretty powerful search tool, but I think a lot of people get tripped up because they're like, well, I don't know who I'm looking for. I'm looking for blah, blah, blah. So if that's the case, you can always do the advanced search like I was just showing you, or, you know, you can type in just this search directory works like Google. You can type in anything, even if you don't type in the full word talent, you can type in strat instead of strategy. You know, it will still find those people that have that on their profile. So some other features on this member resources page, we have Superlinked, which some of you may or may not be participating in. This is a one-on-one networking app that we have that members can participate in every single week if they choose to, or they can opt in as frequently or infrequently as they want. So if they've not yet signed up, all they do is just start a new profile. It is a much more pared down version of sort of like a LinkedIn profile, but they connect their LinkedIn to it. They say who they are and what types of people they're trying to meet. And then each week they'll get an email asking them if they want a new introduction. If they say yes, they're now opted in, and the program will try to give them a new connection for the week. So this is a really good way to meet someone one-on-one. It's a little bit like low stress because you're just meeting one person at a time.
So can I interrupt here? This would be another thing to put down on the guide planning form, because I do recommend this, that I recommend the small group networking as well as the one-on-ones, the Superlinked, because it's a great way for people to, especially if they're more of an introvert, to be able to start to really meet people in a way that's easier for them.
Yep. And we've had some members who have had, like, I don't know, 50 different matches at this point. So you can really, you know, go all out with it and do every single week. Or there's some people who I see that they just opt in maybe once a month, or they skip a month if they're really busy at work or on vacation or something. So it's really customizable to your own needs. And that's a free, you know, member resource. I'm going to skip this for 1 second, the new member start guide. The content library, that's what Janine was mentioning with YouTube, where we have all these videos. You know, since we've been doing so much virtual programming and recording, you know, 95% of the sessions we do, there's a vast resource here. Everything from, you know, our different subgroups is on here. You know, LinkedIn, how to present yourself like a pro, how to communicate with impact in a hybrid work environment. You know, anything you can think of that we've done, most of them are here. You know, training with the LGBTQ community, all sorts of different resources are here. I'll just point out also that we have some curated playlists as well, so that you can, and we're going to be adding to these, but it's sort of like a way to say, okay, well, which are the ones that are related to just something fun? Like we did a wine tasting, so we'll put that in the social category. We have some nonprofit ones. If you remember the Beacon Leaders Minute videos, Neil's put those into a playlist with, where you meet all the different Beacon members. And those are like short, about 2-minute videos with different leadership tips and tricks, or people introducing themselves, talking about themselves. So that's kind of a helpful way, but all the, anything that's new will be uploaded here. People can actually subscribe. So if you're interested in getting a notification whenever Beacon puts a new, over here, there's a subscribe button. So anyway, go back. The DE&I committee also put together some specific resources, some of the local affiliated chambers, different articles, videos. If it's a video, it'll explain that's the video, looking into some data and some actual findings from McKinsey and others. So you can see there's some good resources here.
Nice.
So, and then lastly, we did create this in the membership committee. It's a PDF that the new member can download for themselves and actually check the boxes and when they're finishing things. So we do kind of have the things we've talked about. So have you signed up for Superlinked? And it links to Superlinked. Have you participated in small group networking? These are on the calendar as a regular occurring thing, but we do also have some sort of background on the program. In-person networking, this you might just have to look through the calendar and find what's coming up. And some people, they may not be interested in attending an in-person meeting, and that's fine. They can just put an X through that box. They don't have to come to something in person if they're not interested in that. Learn something new. We kind of put that as like a reminder that it's not just about networking. You can also do an informative program about a topic that you're interested in, or it can be in your field, or it could be in something that you're not even affiliated with at all, and you just see it, and something that, like, we had a really great program on digital healthcare. And for me, as someone who's not in the life sciences and healthcare field, it was really eye-opening. Barbara, do you have a comment?
Yeah, this would be a great form for the guides to have. So so not only giving it to the new person, but also for a guide to use, help look at all the different things. So,
yeah.
And
So when we send out all the information post-meeting with all the updates, let's add this to the email.
So it is on the, it's on that member resources page. So hopefully people can find it. We always encourage that if people can and want to, they can follow us on LinkedIn. That just increases the likelihood that we're expanding the view and the reach of our posts on LinkedIn. And some people really like to use LinkedIn. They're on it all the time. So if they're seeing posts from us about events and things that they can attend, that's just another way to sort of stay up to date on what's going on. This is their reminder to meet you, which a lot of it is, you are going to reach out to them as their guide, but this is just a reminder that if they haven't met with you, or maybe they got contacted by you but didn't realize what was happening, who you were, this is kind of the reminder. Did you meet with your guide? And if something breaks down, if for some reason, I don't know, the guide isn't able to contact them, I prompt them to reach out to me to just, let me know. And then we do talk about volunteering opportunities, which, you can get into with your new member as well. So that's, yes.
So does that form get sent out? Is that what you're saying?
The new member guide? Yeah, we've been sending it after the new member orientation, but we might just start sending it. So some other context for onboarding, every new member gets added into a workflow of different drip emails. So basically all those things that were in that big, PDF, we send that over time. So like every couple of weeks, they're getting a new reminder and a timely reminder. So, the first email I think has to do with reminding them to send out their introduction, because we think that's a good first step. And then it walks them through all of those things on the new member guide, but it just sort of reminds them by email, because sometimes even if someone gets this and looks at it initially, they might not be referring back to it, but if they're getting an email in their inbox every couple of weeks reminding them to sort of check those boxes, that's how we're kind of integrating that as well, is through that onboarding email campaign.
Okay.
So it reinforces what you've already taught them. It's just sometimes, people need to be reminded at specific intervals or else they forget.
Okay, I know I'm obviously sounding like a broken record here, but I would love for the small networking groups to be in there somehow.
They're right here.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Yes. And it's one of the emails that they get as well. Yep.
Great. Thank you.
So this is sort of like where I think a lot of the resources that people are looking for are consolidated. At the top, we've looked at Google Analytics of the old site and things. The top resources that people are always or the pages, I guess I should say, that people are ending up on, by far the most is the events calendar. 90% of the website traffic is to the events calendar, to the event itself, the page where you register, and then registering. These other pages all combined pale in comparison to how many people are just, and I think that makes a lot of sense. People just want to know what's coming up that I can go to, and they want to just sign up. And they may or may not need one of these resources, but that's usually much less frequent than just signing up for events. And then all this is still, we still have the link to renew membership. We still have the contact us. One other thing we did add is, or not necessarily added, but we consolidated, was before there was kind of 4 different pages that explained why you'd want to join Beacon and then the actual application. So we've now sort of consolidated that to one page. So why Beacon, the value proposition, and then the tangible benefits, email forums, seeking business advice, virtual programs, in-person programs, content library on YouTube, networking roundtables, one-on-one with Superlinked, so all these are like the tangibles. Again, we put everything on one page now, so people can read about the membership criteria and expand any of these if they're curious. What's an in-transition executive, or what's a whatever. And then we put our Beacon cultural values: generosity of spirit, thought leadership, volunteerism, etc. And then they can apply right through here. So we've really tried to just not have everything so spread out where you had to find information on 5 different pages to get a full picture of something. It's now, we've tried to get it all onto one page. So
yeah,
that's the little overview, and maybe we'll even clip this portion out and we'll put that somewhere so that anyone can refer to it. But back to the slides.
Thank you, Zoe. That's why Bob and I wanted you to do that, because I learned something. You know what? It's so I'm guilty. I get on the website and I go to the things I go to, and I didn't quite realize the full extent of how you'd reorganize it. And it's so much cleaner. That was great. Thank you. That was really, I'm kind of blown away by a couple things. All right, wait, Bob has something. Oh, Bob, you're doing the case studies. Okay. Bob, you're muted.
What we'd like to, just unmuting. What we'd like to do now is a case study. It's been an opportunity, if you will, for the more experienced members and the new members be together and talk through how they would approach guiding a specific situation. We have 3 different situations. Each breakout group will have one of those 3. You're all basically being asked to answer the same several questions.
I am here, yes.
we'd like to do is have Jackie, because she just came in, 6 months ago roughly, had a good guide experience and has become very actively involved in Beacon, as you heard, with participating in membership committee and the like. Talk about what she feels her experience, what made it a good experience, I guess is the right way to put it. Jackie?
Yeah. So Pat Schaefer was my guide, and it was because of Pat's connection with me. I think that I actually, after my trial period, decided to become a full member of Beacon. And in the beginning, it was, the idea of joining a networking group sounded really cool. And then whenever I got involved, actually, no, not involved, when I learned more about it, there was so much stuff, available that I just didn't know where to start. And that's where Pat was really helpful for me. We had our first meeting in person. We went to lunch together just to kind of get to know each other. So I didn't feel any pressure in that meeting to do something, right? She was slowly reeling me in, and I didn't even realize what was happening. But then she sent me a couple of emails, think about this, think about that. None of that sort of really landed with me, but she kept at it. She would reach out to me, send me an email. We actually had a connection from a business perspective that she really helped me out with, which kind of let me understand the value of the quality of the people that were in the network. And then she's the one that suggested that maybe I participate in the membership committee. And when I learned what the committee was all about and what they were trying to do, I thought, that's right up my alley. That's something I feel like I could really connect with, something that I could add some value to. And I had someone that literally kind of introduced me, so I didn't have to come in there cold. And people were really welcoming when I got there. So I think that was what really made me decide, okay, I can do this. And the more you do, the more you learn. And I feel like the biggest advantage for me was having someone to kind of guide you along the way, because otherwise everything looks the same. And it's just so much that it's hard to decide what's really most important to you.
I have a quick question. What's the trial period? I haven't heard of that before. Is that something relatively new, or?
We ran a program last fall offering a 6-month trial membership to new members. And as basically a test for a program for bringing in new members. Result was actually a fair number of people did come in, of course, Jackie being one of them. So it's just something that we do occasionally, Craig. It's not a standard isn't available all the time.
Okay.
If you had someone you think would be a good member and you think it's appropriate to go through a trial, I suggest you probably either talk to Paul George or to Zoe to get permission for it. But it's something we'll probably run maybe annually. Because it also has the backspin of reminding our members that, one of your roles is to help find new members. But it's a very easy way to do it, because they're not saying, oh, by the way, I think it's a great thing for you to join, but you need to cough up X dollars up front. So let them experience it first.
Bob, is the intention more to not charge the prospective person so that they can see if they like it? Or is it to say to that prospective person, we'll figure out if you'd be a potentially good member?
More the former.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because we find guests of members convert at a fairly high rate when we start asking them, would you be interested in joining? So what we find is that Beacon's hard to understand, I guess is the way to put it. But once you've experienced it, it's very easy to understand and say, yeah, there's value.
Jackie, you were going to add something.
Yeah, just the second question about the program and materials. So I have to say the website improvements are amazing, right? When I joined, it was so hard to navigate through the information on the website. So I don't have time right now. I'll do it later. But now I have to say, Zoe, you guys have done an amazing job in making it simple and easy and much easier to get around. So I think that's an advantage that new members will have coming in now that maybe didn't exist when I first started. I actually attended an in-person networking event in the fall, November or so, which was great. Pat was there. She introduced me to several people there. I think I may have gotten like a real networking introduction to about 7 people. And of those 7 people, I had follow-ups with about 3 of them. And one of them I actually have had a longer-term relationship with. So I feel like I would never have met those people on my own. I would have never just like walked up to them and said, "Hi, I'm Jackie Linton," right? So it's really important, I think, to have someone to sort of sponsor you when you're new.
And Jackie, those introductions were deliberate. It wasn't that I was introducing you to people sort of serendipitously. We had a target list before we went to the event of the people that you wanted to meet and that I could introduce you to. So that was really important. And Jackie was really easy to engage. Not everyone is that easy. Believe me, I've guided a lot of people. She was, ready and willing to get engaged. But that engagement was so important. If I had not engaged her early on, I don't think she would have become a member.
No, I wouldn't.
We would have lost her. So that engagement, and Bob, you've had statistics that show that we lose most of our people in the first year. And that's because we don't hook them. We don't get them engaged the way Jackie got engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why if you will, training this session, remind everybody it's the guide program is critical to the success of Beacon.
Yep.
Yeah. I could not agree more.
I was saying in my breakout, and I think this is a great example of it, that, how I kind of get a sense of a lot of the new members, and some of them are just engaged. They're like, they almost don't need a guide. They're just going. They're meeting people. They're attending things. They've got all this energy for it. And other people are really passive. I think, Jackie, you kind of described yourself that way. Like, you joined, but you didn't quite know what to do. You were overwhelmed. You weren't really responding to your guide outreach at first. I've had that too, where I've reached out to somebody and they're like, they don't get back to me. Like, so I think you'll find when you're guiding that you'll just find people that run the gamut from super engaged and ready to do everything to like, I said in the group, it's like, sometimes it's like, do they know they joined this group? Like, I'm not even sure, like you weren't that way, I think you knew,
No,
Jackie, but
I wasn't.
I've got a couple of people that it's like, is this a mistake? Are they really in this group, or did somebody like pay their membership for them and they don't, so.
So for us, it wasn't that I wasn't responsive. I think that Pat was really good at making a real connection with me, not just a Beacon connection, like really connecting with me on a personal level, as a person, rather than just about Beacon. So when she sent me a message or an email, of course I responded right away because I didn't feel the pressure of having to like do something. But she was very good at like weaving it in without making it like all about just, her role as a guide. In fact, I didn't even know she was my guide. I just know that she was the one that told me about Beacon. And so, yeah.
So what I think a little bit about group dynamics here, that when you first join, you don't know if you might know just a few people. There might be people that are part of the group that you don't know that they're part of the group yet. Right. So you are new. So you're new coming into a quote unquote established association. And so what I tell people is that they generally have to go to 3 things, be involved in 3 things before they feel like they're a part of the group, because they, until you get in, you can almost feel a little bit like an outsider, right? Because you don't know people, you don't know the processes, you don't know a lot of the things. So I tell people, you have to try it for at least 3 things and meet people so that when you come into a room, there's somebody that maybe and you can go hi, or they'll go hi to you. That's when the engagement starts to happen. So it takes more than maybe going once. You really do need to make the effort of coming. I use 3. I don't know if that's the correct number, but it's a way for you to start to feel like you are part of the group and not just an outsider coming in.
Yeah.
As we're losing people fairly regularly because we're just over time,
Yeah.
I think we probably have to cut ourselves short. Thank you all very much for participating. If you have any suggestions for improving the guide program, the training, anything like that, please send it to either Janine or myself or both of us.
And Bob, when will we be sending out the updated materials to everybody?
Should have it done in about a week to 10 days.
Okay, great. So everyone look for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob and Janine, for all your hard work on this. As I mentioned before, it is a non-paid position, so we appreciate all their efforts on this. And it was great to see get everyone together. And I think we should consider maybe every year doing some type of group meeting like this, just to share best practices and stories and updated materials.